Keep going then. Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. Today, I am super honored to have as my guest Dorsey Ross. Dorsey was born on January 1977 with a congenital disability known as Apert syndrome. When he was born, his forehead was pushed forward and his nose and mouth were pushed inward. And I'm just saying that just for context. His fingers and toes were fused, and meaning that he had no individual movement. Doctors gave Dorsey's parents no hope for his survival and advised them to put him in an institution. His parents both knew and trusted God, and they believed that God would do great things in Dorsey's life. And throughout his life, Dorsey has overcome so many obstacles and trials, and being bullied and called names like monster and freak, undergoing multiple operations. Dorsey's teacher even told him that he'd never make it through college. And let me tell you, people, he graduated from university and he is today an evangelist. Welcome, 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 Dorsey.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, it's my absolute pleasure, sir. Your story is just so inspiring. And, at a time where parents, I think they need hope. And if you cannot provide that hope for them, Dorsey, I don't know who can. With everything that you've gone through, and you are thriving, you are just an amazing human being who's gone through so much. You've basically gone through the fire, and look at you now.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So tell us, Dorsey, I just want to go right to it. How did you overcome people making fun of you?
Well, it's not easy, overcoming that. And to a degree, I'm still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with people making fun of me, from adults to little kids, teenagers and little kids. And to a degree, I understand, the little kids, they don't, maybe fully understand, why I look differently or why I look the way that I do. And, and I put, more the blame when it comes to that on the parent for not explaining that and not explaining why people, like myself, look differently and look, maybe, weird, or maybe, look, like a monster or like a freak. And, to the flip side of that, when it comes to the adult, I try to go on, quote unquote, Christian dating sites. And I've, gotten, people that have said to me, why do you look weird? Why do you look differently? And I understand the question, but, when it's the first comment out of your mouth, you're like, really? Let's talk first, and then I'll explain to you my story and what has happened to me in my life. And sometimes it's gotten better over time, but when people would make fun of me or people stare at me and whatnot, it would frustrate me and it would upset me. And it, depending on who it was and where it was and things like that, it would upset me. And other times I would just try to brush it off and walk it off. But obviously, the reason why I've overcome it to the extent that I have is because of having God in my life and having faith in my life and realizing that He created me for a reason and a purpose, and that He created me inside my mother's body.
Yes. And it's obvious that he has a purpose for your life, because if he didn't, you would not be here today. Doctors gave you next to no chance of surviving And look at you now, which is amazing. You are a miracle, sir.
Amen.
Yes. So, oh my gosh. And it just honestly, it's so sad that again, um, and again, I'm not judging parents. They don't know what they don't know, and they're probably uncomfortable, but it's really important to have those uncomfortable conversations with children because
Yeah,
God created us all equal. And like Dr. Steve G. Jones says, we all have a value of one. Nobody's better than anybody else. We are all equal in God's eyes. We are all equal. And it's so important to teach children that lesson.
right. And it could be also that they're embarrassed as well, that their kid would say something or do something like that, and then they're like, all right, well, how do I handle this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because it is difficult. Your child puts you on the spot and they say something, and it's like, what do I do? And, we freeze sometimes, and I get it. But so, which is why we're having this conversation now, because this is an important conversation for parents to have with their children. Because I see it in schools, children making fun of other children because of something that they can't control. So it's really important, for that conversation to happen. But for the grace of God, it could have been any of us.
Yeah, and then I went to a school for people with disabilities my whole life up until I graduated high school, and even in that school, where you would think there'd be, um, you know, love and confidence with each other. There were still kids in that school that would make fun of, other students.
Yeah. And sadly, though, when we do that, doesn't it make, some people do it because it makes them feel better. It's like, well, I'm not as bad as this person. And, I hear it with students all the time. Well, what he did was worse than, than what I did. And I'm not as, and we use that to comfort ourselves in some way. And I think we just need to stop. We need to teach children not to comfort themselves at the expense of others.
Right.
Wow. Wow. So, how did your faith help you go through life? Because I know you've mentioned that a lot. Like when I read your story and that. So, how, like, just give us some specific examples, because maybe that's another way that parents who have children who are encountering challenges can help their child help themselves get through it.
Yeah. Well, I grew up, in the church, and I gave my life to Christ at the age of 13, and I think it was starting when I was older. I came up with my own, um, my own saying which is can't is not in my vocabulary, and it's not just that I didn't use it when I was older. Is that I really didn't use the word can't throughout my whole life. Because my parents always allowed me to figure out for myself what I could and could not do. And couldn't wasn't very much. I have limitations in my arms where I can't lift my hands above my head. Um, but that didn't stop me from going out and playing basketball or playing baseball in the street, or playing, softball or football or whatever that might be. And even, in the school and in the gym, I would play sports, and I got knocked down, and I had to go to the nurse's office and have my dad come and get me and take me to the hospital to make sure I was okay. And the confidence in that I think it was the God-given confidence that He gave me to say, "Hey, I'm going to open up the door for you to do these things, so that you can see what I'm going to maybe what I'm going to do for you throughout your life." And I think, if I didn't have that, I don't know, where I would be today. If I didn't have the confidence to go out and try these things, and to do these things in my life, I don't know where I'll be today. And if I've obviously my parents didn't have their faith in God and their faith in what they thought God would do in their life, in my own life. I may be in the institution, I may be dead. Doctors told my parents, we don't think he'll survive past the age of 18.
And look at you now. Awesome. Now, you talk about confidence because I know for me, I didn't have a lot of it, and sometimes I don't. And there are a lot of children who don't have that confidence. I mean, the confidence enough to, do like open a package for themselves. I was at a school yesterday, and this little girl, she had fruit snacks in a package, and she wanted help to open it. And I said, sweetie, I know you can do it by yourself. She goes, no, I can't. So I said, well, get a friend to help you. No, they're too little to help me. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I actually got one of her peers to help her so that she could see size did not matter. But
Right.
yeah, but that's a confidence issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Wow. So what are some other ways? Because you said your parents allowed you to struggle and do things yourself, to figure it out yourself. Are there any other ways that they help to develop confidence in you?
I think it was in my schooling as I got older.
Mm,
In my schooling, because I struggled, in school. I didn't do well in certain subjects and math and text and reports and stuff like that. And I think as I got older, I wanted to see, what was out there for me. Would I go out and become a nurse? Would I go out and do something in technology or in computers and being a ghost in the Coast Guard or in a lifeguard or whatever I was thinking that time. And you said earlier that the teacher said I wouldn't make it in college, and I was there in that meeting, and my mom was there in that meeting, and the people, it was an IEP meeting or something to see what the next step for me would be. And these people asked the teacher, do you think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college? And he said, no, I don't think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college. And then they asked me, and I said, yeah, I think I can make it. And I think that's again where that confidence came from, where I was able, because I was able to overcome all these difficulties that I had to face in my life. I said, well, if this is another difficulty that I'm gonna have to face, then I'll face it and see what happens.
that is so incredible. You are incredible, sir. Because like I said, I just see it every day. You give a child a pencil, I can't do it. And I'm thinking they need you. They need somebody who will help say, listen, I've done this and I have these challenges. That would really, like I said, you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
So, what is one of the hardest things that you've had to face?
I think I think schooling was definitely a hard thing. I had to go to 4 years of excuse me, 4 years of community college, and because I wanted to become a youth pastor at the time, I went to do 5 more years at a Bible college, and in the end, I was able to get 2 associate's degrees and 1 bachelor's degree in youth ministry from the University of Valley Forge. And I also think, another difficult thing for me would be, dating and relationship with the opposite sex, wanting to date a female and wanting to find that future wife that I think God had for me out there somewhere. And I think that's one of the, difficult things. And I think that's part of where I lack confidence is asking a girl out or asking for her phone number or asking her out for coffee because I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of what she'll say, and I'm afraid of what's going to be that comment that she'll make.
Yes, I can only imagine that is pretty, that the difficulty in that. And again, because like you said, people start judging before they hear anything that you have to say. And that's, a societal thing. And which is why I think it's really important that parents teach, have these conversations with their children, even though they don't know somebody they may not know somebody who has a different ability that they can, talk to them about it. Because in this world, we've got people with differing abilities. So it's just really important to have those conversations so that as they develop, it's like, oh yeah, that that's Dorsey's got Apert syndrome. It's I got one of my supervisors would say when we talked about children with disabilities, said, listen, I have he'd say disability. I like to say different abilities, but but he'd say that he has a disability because he wears glasses. We all have something that we need, that we struggle with.
Right.
And there are people, Dorsey, who struggle with dating, and they don't have a differing, they don't have a different ability.
Yeah.
It's just, people out there, life, and we just have to be more open to people. Yeah. And I'm talking a whole lot. I think I'm talking too much. Dorsey, tell us about your book.
Yeah, I wrote my book called Overcomer, Discovering God's Plan Against All Odds. And I originally wrote it in 2016. And then I did an updated version of it came out in 2020. And it's a story of my life, from pretty much from birth until I graduated from college. And it talks about what I've been through, what I've what I dealt with, what I've had to overcome in my life, and what I've had to face in my life as well.
Awesome. Now, what would you tell a parent who has a child, an infant, a toddler, any child with a different ability?
Yeah, I would tell them, just like my parents did, allow them to figure out for themselves, what they're able to do and what they're capable of doing, and don't put them in a bubble and don't put them in a bubble and say, well, because he or she has this or has that, they're not going to be able to do this or do that, and don't listen to the doctors, don't always listen to people on the outside of your circle. And, if they're telling you that they're not going to be able to do it, don't always listen to them. Don't always go by what those specific people are telling you to do, or telling you that your child is not going to be able to do that.
Awesome. And like I always say, parents are the expert with respect to their children. So all these other people can come to say, do this, do that. But look at Dorsey's parents. They didn't listen to the experts, and they went ahead and just had faith and believed and allowed him to get up on his own when he fell, and allowed him to struggle. And that built resilience. And look at you now. So super awesome. Sorry, excuse me. So Dorsey, if there's one thing you want parents to leave this moment with, what would that be?
I would just say that, if I can do all the things that I've struggled with and that I've dealt with and I've had to overcome with, we can all do it. We can all overcome the struggles and the difficulties that we face in life, and especially your children and your teenagers can do the same thing as well.
Yes. And it does start at birth though, right? Because if your parents didn't believe in you from birth and believe that you were going to overcome, do you think you would have overcome?
No, I don't think I would have.
Yeah. Wow, incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story, Mr. Dorsey Ross.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's been an honor. Please tell me, how can people get hold of you?
Yeah, people can get a hold of me, on Instagram at Dorsey.Ross,
Mhm.
DORS as in Sam EY, ROSS, two S's there. And then they can find me on my website at www.dorseyrossministries.com. And you can buy my book directly from there as well.
Awesome. And the book is called Overcoming, yes?
Yes, Overcomer.
Overcomer, sorry, Overcomer. Get his book, Overcomer, and go to his website, dorseyrossministries.com. Yes. Thanks again, Dorsey. Be blessed. Well, you are blessed. Continue to be blessed. All righty. Okay, so hopefully we can do this again sometime, Mr. Dorsey.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.